Welcome to the Unstressed Exec, the podcast where we dive deep into the real conversations that help you lead, love, and live with greater clarity, courage, and calm. I'm your host, Dr. George Vergolias, executive coach and clinical forensic psychologist, and I help high-achieving professionals navigate life transitions, resolve conflict with confidence, and build unshakable psychological resilience. So if you're ready to lead with purpose, master conflict with grace, and become more emotionally agile under pressure, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Unstressed Exec podcast with me, your host, Dr. George Vergolias, forensic psychologist, executive, and resilience coach. Today, this is episode 2, and we're going to talk about something that most people try to avoid: conflict. Now, I get it. The word alone can make your stomach tighten. But what if I told you that conflict, when handled the right way, is not only survivable, it's actually transformative? In today's episode, we're going to reframe conflict from a destructive force into a tool for deep personal and professional growth. Whether you're leading a team, navigating a relationship, or confronting a major life decision, you're going to want that mindset shift, and it's going to be life-changing for you. But why do we fear conflict? Let's start there. And why do we fear it so much? Well, the reason is it's evolutionary. Our brains are wired to see conflict as a threat. Thousands of years ago, conflict in your tribe could mean rejection, and rejection could mean death. It's part of our deep primal limbic system response, fight or flight response, that we actualize or activate when we are perceiving a threat. Today, it's a bit different, though. We don't have saber-toothed tigers, and we don't have, the average person isn't at risk of being attacked by lions and bears or other tribes. So our nervous system doesn't always get the memo, though. That's the problem, right? So even though we know that physically, for most of us, we are physically safe in our environment, the nervous system hasn't evolved all that much in the last couple thousand years. We still flinch, we still freeze, we fume when tension rises. But here's the problem. Avoiding conflict doesn't make it go away. It just drives it underground. It festers. It creates disconnection, burnout, and in business, it results in poor decision-making. And poor decision-making could be career ruining. In some cases, it can be company ruining, and it very rarely leads to what we all hope to gain, which is success and return on investment. I've worked with senior leaders, couples, and trauma survivors in many different settings, from corporate to hospitals to prison systems. And the common thread that I see again and again is that growth never, I'll repeat, never happens by avoiding conflict. Growth happens when we lean into it and we learn how to walk through it wisely. So how do we do this? Well, it starts with reframing conflict as growth. And we need to flip the script of what we've typically either been taught or the patterns we've typically fallen into. Conflict is feedback. And what we know from elite learners is that they don't take feedback as a bad thing. They take it as serious, but not personal. So let me say that again. Elite learners take feedback as important. They take it serious. They don't take it personal. That then gets the ego out of the way, and it makes them open to view it as feedback to allow them to improve. So conflict reveals misaligned values, unmet needs, unclear expectations. And that's really gold when you think about it. If you know how to mine it, if you know how to look at that and improve it and bring insights to how you're functioning in the world and how you can function better. In close relationships, conflict that's handled with respect and intention builds trust. Why? Why is that? Well, because it says to the other person, I care enough to engage with you, not walk away. I care enough to lean into the difficult conversations that we need to have so that we can deepen and enhance our relationship, not throw it away or avoid that. In business, conflict, especially among diverse, high-performing, high-test teams, it's the birthplace of innovation. It means that they're engaged, that they're leaning in, that they care, they're invested. Basically, that they're not checked out. And innovation and creativity doesn't come without some degree of conflict. So in the business space, you need to have enough of a room, an atmosphere where conflict can occur as long as it's controlled, as long as it's not toxic, where there's healthy debate that can occur. And out of that is where innovation often comes from. So handled well, conflict creates a number of things: better communication, more clarity, stronger boundaries, often higher performance, and a deeper connection to others. And remember what we said earlier, it's not a threat. It's a signal that something needs attention. And attention is the first step towards growth. So then how do we begin this idea of thinking about a growth framework? Well, there are 4 steps to use. And I'll walk through the 4-step framework that I use with coaching clients and executives to turn conflict into clarity. The first step is pause and regulate. So before you respond, take a quick pause. Most conflictual situations do not demand an immediate nanosecond response. So take a pause before you respond. Check in with your body. Are you breathing? Are you clenching? Is this the moment to engage or to take a step back? Do you at least have enough clarity that you're approaching the conflict or the conflictual situation with a level head? Or do you need to take some time to kind of get yourself together emotionally and psychologically? And a tip for doing this is 90 seconds of deep breathing can totally re-engage your prefrontal cortex and reduce emotional reactivity. In some cases, if you're in a meeting, you could do this breathing without anyone else detecting it. Now, there are different methods of breathing. I'll go into that in a later episode. If you're doing non-sleep deep relaxation, or if you're doing the physiological sigh, these are types of breathing that actually are a little more vocal. They make some noise, but you could quietly breathe in through your nose and out through your nose, or even in through your nose and out through your mouth at a, inhale of 2 seconds, exhale of 4 seconds, or inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, and repeat that. That is something that you can do quite covertly and other people won't even notice you're doing it. So that's the first, pause and regulate. The next step is get curious, not defensive. Replace judgment with curiosity. Seek understanding before you seek judgment. Ask yourself this question: what is this person really trying to communicate to me? What's this conflict teaching me about them or about myself? What is the outcome that this person is driving at? And what outcome do I want to drive at? Time and again, I find, and I work with people either in therapy or in executive coaching, and I find that they and the other party both want the same outcome, but because they have stepped into a defensive stance and they're not curious, they're closed off to the other's perspective, that they end up escalating conflict when in the end, they basically want the same basic outcome, some resolution of the problem to be solved. So curiosity turns conflict into discovery. Again, step 2, get curious, not defensive. Step 3, speak with purpose, not blame. Say what you mean, but don't say it mean. Let me say that again. Say what you mean, be clear, be transparent, be kind in that messaging as well, but don't say it mean. Don't say it in a mean way. Remember what we know from neurolinguistic processing is that roughly 70 to 80% of communication is nonverbal. Another 15 or so percent is tone, and the remaining percent is literally the content of what you're saying. So how you say it, how you share it is critical. Use I statements. Stay anchored in your values. So for example, I feel frustrated when expectations aren't clear because it makes it harder for me to deliver. That's a reasonable response, right? Anyone on the other side of that debate or argument or discussion is going to be open to that feedback, right? And that, again, let me say that again. I feel frustrated when expectations aren't clear because it makes it harder for me to deliver. Imagine hearing that versus you never communicate clearly. Another approach here, a technique that you can use, it's called argue the argument, not the person. So if I'm having an argument with you, for example, I could say, the better thing to say is, here's my problem, or here's the issue I have with that perspective, or here's the problem I have with that viewpoint. Notice what I'm doing. I'm attacking the viewpoint. I'm attacking the perspective. I'm attacking, you could say, the philosophy. Here's the problem I have with that perspective, right? Now imagine I said to you, here's why you're wrong. That just comes, even if I say it more gently, here's why you're wrong. just pulls the ego into it. And when people get their ego pulled into it, then their self-respect, their sense of integrity, their sense of being intelligent, all of those pieces of baggage are now pulled into the argument. So again, speak with purpose, not blame. Argue the argument. Say what you mean, but don't say it mean. Step 4, integrate and act. So once the storm passes, don't forget the lessons that you've learned, right? What boundaries need to be clarified? What systems need to be changed? What communication strategies between us need to be rethought or revamped? What do you want to do differently next time? All of these are such important lessons that we can learn if we integrate those lessons, those learnings, and then act on them in subsequent or future conflicts. Growth from conflict only sticks when it becomes action. So in recap, we talked about why we fear conflict, how we reframe conflict as growth, kind of flipping that script, and then the growth framework itself. 4 steps to that: pause and regulate, get curious, not defensive, speak with purpose, not blame, integrate and act. So now let's just get into some closing thoughts and action steps. So here's your challenge this week. Think of one conflict, past or present, that you've been avoiding. Could be anything. Could be something with a spouse, could be something with a loved one, a brother, a sister, maybe a boss, maybe someone else at work, whatever it may be. And then ask yourself, what's the deeper message in that tension? How might I grow if I faced it with intention? Thinking about how that conflict is arising, what I can learn from it, and how I can improve upon it. And remember, conflict is not the problem. Avoiding it without learning from it, that's the real danger. That's the real problem. And that is what allows conflicts to fester and perpetuate. In our next episode, we're going to get tactical, and I'll teach you specific communication tools for managing high stakes or emotionally charged conflicts. Because knowing what to do is half the battle, but having clear communication tools, clear tactics is also very important if we're going to be effective in navigating conflicts, navigating forward. Until then, take a breath, lean in. Remember, growth is in the tension, and it's in the learning that comes through the other side. If this episode spoke to you, please subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who's stuck in conflict and needs a new way forward. I'm Dr. George Vergolias. Until next time, thanks for listening.